Hey, greetings there, everybody. It is GleeCon here again with another episode of Lore of Warcraft coming at you. So, on the last episode, we continued our little aside journey, the journey of dedication, where we looked at the Warcraft role-playing game for Dungeons and Dragons and some of their side characters and just kind of saw some of the parallels. But we read a manga with a little standalone story. Right now, we're going to continue our Cycle of Hatred novel. In the first chapter of that, we basically saw that there is, for the most part, good feelings between the Alliance and the Horde, but that the Burning Blade, agents of the Burning Crusade, are out there and they're starting to sow division. Someone is using human agents, to sow division between the two races. So stay a while and listen as we read the second chapter in this novel, Cycle of Hatred. This is, for some reason, considered to be the first novel in the Warcraft series, and it's not first by date if you look at the way they're ranked, but maybe if you consider it, I saw some list somewhere, but maybe if it's the World of Warcraft series, this would be the first novel. You consider some of the ones we read that had time traveling elements. Okay, here we go, chapter 2.
What I don't get is, what's the point of fog?
Captain Bolik, master of the orc trading vessel Orgathar, knew he would regret the words even as he found himself almost compelled to respond to his Batman statement.
Does it have to have a point?
Rabin shook his head as he continued his cleaning of the captain's tusks. It was not a habit every orc indulged in, but Bolik felt that it was his duty as captain of the Orgathar to present himself in the best manner possible. Orcs were a noble people, ripped from their homes and enslaved both by demons and by humans. Enslaved orcs had always been filthy and unkempt. As a free orc living in Durotar under the benign rule of the great warrior Thrall, Bolik felt it was important to look as little like the slaves of old as possible. That meant grooming, as alien a concept as that might have been to most orcs, and it was something he expected in his crew as well. Certainly it was true of Rabin, who had taken to the captain's instructions far better than most of Orgathar's crew. Rabin kept his eyebrows trimmed, his tusks and teeth cleaned, his nails polished and sharp, and kept decoration to a tasteful minimum, just a nose ring and a tattoo. In answer to Bolik's question, Rabin said,
Well, everything in the world serves some purpose, don't it, sir? I mean, the water, it's there to be giving us fish to eat, in a way of traveling by boat. The air's there to be giving us something to breathe. The ground gives us food, too, not to mention something to build our homes on. We're making boats with what the trees give us, even rain and snow. They're giving us water we can drink unlike the sea. All that means something.
Rabin turned his attention to sharpening Bolik's nails, and so Bolik leaned back. His stool was situated near the cabin bulkhead, so he leaned against that.
But fog means nothing. All it does really is getting away without giving us nothing.
Bolik smiled, his freshly cleaned teeth shining in the cabin's dim lantern-provided illumination. The porthole provided none such, thanks to the very fog that Rabin was now complaining about. The captain asked,
But snow and rain get in the way, too. True enough, Captain, true enough.
Rabin finished sharpening the thumb and moved on to the other fingers.
But like I said, snow and rain got themselves a greater purpose. Even if they do get in the way, leastways there is a benefit to be making up for it. But tell me, sir, what does the fog do to make up for it? It keeps us from seeing where we're going, and don't give us nothing back.
Perhaps, Bolik regarded his Batman.
Or perhaps we simply haven't learned its benefit yet. After all, there was a time when we did not know that snow was simply frozen rain. The orcs then saw snow, and it is the same kind of problem that you now see fog as. Eventually, its true purpose, as you said, to provide us with water to drink during the colder seasons, was learned. So it is not the fault of the fog, but ours for not yet seeing the truth. And that is as it should be. The world tells us what we need to know when we are ready to know it, and not before. That is the way of things.
Rabin considered the captain's words as he finished sharpening and started buffing.
I suppose that might be so. But that don't do as much good today, though, does it, sir? No, it does not. How is the crew dealing with it? As well as can be, I suppose,
Rabin said with a shrug.
Lookout says he can't see the tusk in front of his face from up there.
Bullock frowned. The rocking of the boat had been fairly constant, but now it seemed to bounce a bit more. That usually meant that they were being affected by the wake of another vessel. Rising from the stool while Rabin was in mid-sharpen, Bullock said,
We'll finish this later, Rabin.
Getting up off his knees, Rabin nodded his head.
Very well, Captain.
Bullock grabbed his father's mace and exited his cabin into the narrow corridor beyond. Orgathar, which Bullock had named after Orgath, his noble father and the original owner of the mace, who died fighting the Burning Legion, had been built by goblins, since he wanted only the best. The shipbuilder, a sharp old goblin named Lades, had assured Bullock that he would make the corridors extra wide to accommodate Orc's greater girth. Unfortunately, the short goblin's notion of extra wide were less generous than Bullock's, so the captain was barely able to squeeze his massive frame through to the staircase that led to the deck. As he walked up the stairs, he saw his first mate, Cag, stop himself from coming down.
I was just coming to see you, sir.
Cag smiled, his long tusks almost poking his eyes.
Should have known you'd feel the change.
Bullock chuckled as he came up to the deck. As soon as he arrived, he regretted not calling Cag back downstairs to meet him. The fog was almost thick enough to cut with his sword. He knew Orgathar well enough to walk to the edge of the deck without being able to see where he was going, but now that was the only way to get there. Cag followed, standing practically nose to nose with the captain so they could see each other. Realizing that he wasn't going to be able to see any other ships, indeed he barely had any empirical evidence that they were actually in a body of water since he could hardly see that, he turned to his first mate.
What is it?
Cag shook his head.
Hard to say. Lookout can't see much. He caught glimpses of a ship, but sometimes he thinks it's one of the Farador military convoys. Other times he says it looks nothing like any regular human or orc boat. What do you think?
Without hesitating, Cag said,
Lookout wouldn't say it if he wasn't sure. If he says he saw Faramore military, then says something else. That means he saw something different the first time. I think it's 2 ships. Besides, the wake's enough for 2, for one going round in circles. This fog, one's as like as the other.
Or one. Bullock nodded his agreement. Their lookout Vac could look at 2 specks on the horizon and tell you which was the fishing boat and which the troop carrier, probably tell you whether or not the fishing boat was built by gnomes or humans, too, and whether the troop carrier was made before or after the Burning Legion's invasion.
3 ships this close is asking for trouble. We may need to sound the horn. Get ship! Ho!
Casting his glance up the mast, Bullock tried to see Vac, but the mask above his head was swallowed by fog. Vac's voice carried down from what the humans called the crow's nest for reasons Bullock never understood. He knew that a crow was a type of bird, but he wasn't sure what its nest had to do with a lookout post, but the captain could not see him. Cag called up,
What do you see? Ship approaching! Humans! Not flying no colors I can see. What about the military ship? Can't see him now, but caught him a second ago. Running parallel now.
Bullock did not like this. A human ship flying no colors usually meant pirates. It might not have. Flying colors was almost pointless in a fog like this, and they simply might have been unable to see the orc ship. Bullock wasn't about to risk the possibility or his cargo. If the crates in his hold weren't safely delivered to Razor Hill, Bullock didn't get paid, which meant the crew didn't get paid. Days the crew lost wages were never good days to be a shipmaster. So he's going to the Barrens? Or no, Razor Hill is Durotar. The first kind of big hub city in Durotar.
Sound the horn and put guards on the cargo hold.
Cag nodded.
Yes, sir. Harpoons!
Vax cried. Bullock cursed. Harpoons meant only one of 2 things. One was that the other ship had mistaken Orgathar for a large seafaring creature, such as a whale or a sea serpent. The other was that they were pirates, and the harpoons were attached to boarding lines. Since sea serpents and whales didn't migrate this far north as a general rule, Bullock felt safe in assuming it was the latter. The harpoons slammed into the deck, the side of the staircase that led below decks, and other places Bullock couldn't see in the fog. Then the lines that were attached to them went taut.
"Prepare for boarders!"
Cag cried. Bullock heard a voice say,
"Cut the lines!"
The sound of a fist hitting flesh was followed by Cag saying, "Don't be a fool. Swords can't cut through those ropes, and you leave yourself open." Any other conversation was cut short by the sudden arrival of the very boarders in question, appearing as if by magic in the fog. They were human, Bullock saw, and not in any kind of military uniform. Beyond that, Bullock wasn't sure what they were wearing. Humans' fascination with outerwear, beyond what was absolutely necessary, was something that had always baffled Bullock. He knew what Lady Proudmoore's military wore, but that was it.
"Kill the pirates!"
Bullock cried, but his crew needed no such prompting. The battle was joined. Bullock lifted his father's mace in his right hand and swung it at the closest human, who ducked out of the way, then lunged with his sword. Bullock parried the sword with his left arm, but by the time he was able to whirl the mace around his head for a second strike, the human had gotten his sword up to block the mace. However, when he leaned in to do so, the human moved his stomach closer to Bullock, making it easy for the orc captain to punch his foe with his fist. Doubling over in pain and coughing, the human collapsed to the deck, and Bullock brought his mace down on the back of the human's neck. Two more then leapt in front of Bullock, no doubt expecting him to cower at 2-to-1 odds, but Bullock was made of sterner stuff. Though born a slave in this world, he had been freed by thrall, and swore he would never cower before a human again. He fought alongside them, true, but never would he bow to one as an inferior, nor to two who came at him with swords. The pirate to his left attacked with his blade, a curved one of a type Bullock had seen only once before, while the one on his right swung two shorter swords. Bullock blocked the curved blade with his left arm, though this time the edge bit into his forearm, while using the mace to deflect one of the two short swords. The other short sword missed Bullock's chest by a hair. Although the movement sent searing pain through his left arm, Bullock brought the limb swiftly downward, the blade still stuck in it. His superior strength and leverage meant that the foe on his left was now disarmed, his weapon lodged in Bullock's own flesh. Kicking at the pirate to his right, Bullock grabbed the head of the one on his left and pushed down, forcing the pirate to his knees. The one with the short swords flailed as he stumbled to the deck, managing to avoid a leg-breaking kick, but unable to keep his balance in the bargain. Bullock, still with his massive left hand on the head of the curved sword-holding pirate, cast that fool aside. The human's head hit the mast with a satisfying thud. However, that move gave the other one a chance to regain his footing. Even as he lunged with his two tiny swords, Bullock leaned back and to his right, straightening his right arm behind him, then swung the mace over his head, bringing it smashing down on the human's skull, killing him instantly. "Back!" Bullock yelled up the mast as he removed the curved sword from his arm and tossed it to the deck next to its insensate owner.
"Sound the horn!"
The pirates likely didn't know the Orcish tongue, so he wouldn't expect it when the foghorn went off. Seconds later, an ear-splitting noise filled the air. Bullock was prepared for the sound that felt as if it vibrated his very bones, as were his crew, he assumed. He couldn't really see most of them. The humans that Bullock could see were caught off guard, however, which Bullock had counted on. The orcs that Bullock could see pressed their advantage. Bullock himself started twirling his mace over his head until he found a good target. His father's weapon slammed into the shoulder of a nearby pirate, who fell to the floor screaming in agony. Bullock heard a human voice yell a word in the human tongue that he was fairly sure meant retreat, a guess that was proven accurate as the pirates started to climb the ropes back to their vessel. Bullock saw Cag slice off the leg of one of the retreaters, causing the victim to fall into the great sea. Cag turned to Bullock.
"Do we give chase?"
Shaking his head, Bullock said,
"No, let them go."
There was little point in trying to chase a ship in this bedamned fog.
"Check the cargo."
Nodding acknowledgement, Cag ran off to the hold entry, his footfalls echoing on the deck. Gazing upward, Bullock said,
"Look out! What about the human ship?"
"They didn't move," Vax said, "until after we sounded fog. Then they moved off. Don't see 'em now."
Bullock's fists tightened, his right hand gripping the handle of his father's mace so hard he thought it might break. The humans were their allies. If some of Lady Proudmoore's precious soldiers were nearby, why would they not assist when brigands boarded Orgathar?
Sir,
Cag said, returning alongside Forks, the warrior in charge of guarding the cargo.
one of the crates was smashed. Another was thrown overboard by one of the humans to cover his retreat.
Forks added,
They sent most of their men to the hold. We drove them that good, we did, sir. They'd have taken it all otherwise. You did well, Forks, and you will be rewarded.
Bullock knew his words would have meaning. 2 crates lost meant 20% of their cargo was useless, which meant a 20% reduction in wages. Bullock put a hand on Forks' shoulder.
You shall all receive the same cut you would have if all the cargo came intact. The difference will come out of my own share.
Cag's eyes grew wide.
You honor us all, Captain.
Not at all. You defended my ship. You won't be penalized for that.
Forks smiled.
I'll inform your warriors, sir.
Bullock turned to Cag as Forks went off.
Assess damage, dump any human bodies into the sea, and put us back on course.
He took a breath and blew it out through his tusks.
And when we return, I want a messenger found. Thrall must be informed of this right away.
Nodding, Cag said,
Yes, Captain.
Staring into the fog that had allowed the pirates to get so close for their attack, Bullock thought back on Rabin's words and decided that no use they could get from fog would be worth this. So, most likely, that pirate attack was the Burning Blade again, and the human ship may or may not even have been really a human ship, just a human ship stolen to again sow that dissension. This has got to be just more continuing the plot of now from the orcish side. This is how they're starting to drive that wedge in between the humans and the orcs from that orc side, or between the Horde and the Alliance. All right, cool. So we got another episode in the pipe, 5x5, as we creep closer to game time for World of Warcraft. Thank you, everyone, so much for watching, for listening, for commenting, for viewing, for subscribing. I thank you all. This episode of Lore of Warcraft is in the pipe, 5x5.